Nothing that happens in this world has a built-in meaning to it. It only has the meaning that we give it. That means every situation that you've ever experienced, you gave a meaning to. And that meaning created a belief. And that belief created a reality. But you can change the meaning of that story. And as you change the meaning of that story, you begin to shift the belief. And as you begin to shift the belief, you begin to shift the reality. That's what this new moon is doing. It's opening up that window of possibility that allows for us to begin to create a new reality. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome. Let's talk about this new moon in Gemini. The new moon in Gemini is occurring on May 26, 2025 at 11:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can adjust that for your time zone and your place in the world. This is a really beautiful moon, and I think that one of the most exciting or interesting things about this new moon is the fact that it is occurring at 6 degrees and 5 minutes of Gemini, the sun and the moon both together conjunct as they always are during a new moon at the 6-degree point. So with the sun at 6 degrees, the moon at 6 degrees, honestly, it would have been even cooler if they had been 6 degrees and 6 minutes. But we're not going to nitpick here. It's still really cool being that the 6-6 portal on June 6th is the Gemini portal. It is the portal of the twins. So in a way, this feels like the opening of the 6-6 portal or the 6-6 gateway. This is going to be a really beautiful and magical portal, as we do have Venus, who will be entering Taurus right around this time. We also have some other interesting stuff going on. I'm going to get out my little book here, and I'm going to tell you all exactly what is happening around this 6-6 energy, aside from Venus entering Taurus. Exactly on the 6-6 portal, we have also Mercury and Jupiter entering Cancer, Mercury on the 8th and Jupiter on the 9th. And so they're essentially conjunct entering the sign of Cancer together, right? When one is entering on the 8th and the other day on the 9th. So this is going to be a beautiful, powerful energy as well. It's right on the heels of the 6-6 portal, still within that energy. So we can see this new moon opening up that gateway, Venus really ushering that in. And I love Venus entering Taurus on the 6-6. The reason that I say that this is such a beautiful, luxurious energy is that Venus rules the sign of Taurus. Taurus is her most sensual, earthy, physical manifestation and energy. So when Venus is in Taurus, I think Venus in Libra is very much about the relational aspect of Venus's energy, right? The lover within her. When we're looking in Taurus, it's also about the lover in her, but in a different way, right? This is much more about her exploring her senses, exploring the physical world, being fully incarnated, as we like to say. So it's a really fun energy. It's going to be very much about pampering ourselves, caring for ourselves, the ways that we are perhaps indulging ourselves a little bit. So we have to watch out, especially with Jupiter entering Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer, right? But Jupiter also is very indulgent wherever we find the sign of Jupiter. So with Jupiter entering Cancer a few days after Venus enters Taurus, all around this 6-6 portal energy, we definitely want to be aware. We don't want to allow ourselves to overindulge, but we do want to allow ourselves to play and allow ourselves to enjoy being human. And I think this is something that a lot of us can probably relate to, who are consciously on the ascension pathway or journey, because everybody is on it, right? Regardless of whether they realize it or not. Just some people are aware and some people are unaware, still going through the process at whatever level of the journey, whatever level of the game, I guess you could say, they're currently at. But a lot of times, like, we take that so seriously, and there's so much, because it really is, like, at least in my experience, and this could be different for different people. You know, I am somebody who has a lot of that addictive energy. I am a Taurus sun. I got a lot of energies in my chart that really enjoy that hedonistic type of energy. So this ascension process for me and this whole spiritual awakening and evolution has been a lot about the things I have to let go of. the things that I have to release, all the pleasures that I it felt very Saturnian to me, my ascension journey, a lot of it, where it's been like, all right, well, I got to give that up. Well, I got to give that up. I got to give that up because I like a lot of things that are indulgent. All right. That is my ego nature. So any of you who also have that can probably relate to that, where it feels like, oh yeah, that thing is purely pleasurable, but not really great for me. So that's got to go. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we're trying to be this good little spiritual person. You know what I mean? Who is aligned with their heart and eating right and doing all the things that are good for us, that make our souls smile and make our ego wave its little fist of fury. So sometimes we need to be reminded to find ways to indulge ourselves, to find ways to feel good, to find that self-care that is a bit beyond self-care, where it's spoiling the self, right? Where you go for that extra half an hour with the massage. You know what I mean? Or you add some rose petals and essential oils to your salt bath. It's those kind of things. How can you go that extra mile to romance yourself? How can you go that extra mile to enjoy that energy of pleasure, to enjoy this human experience, right? Because there are things that are good for us that also feel good. It's not just the bad things. It's just we've lived in an inverted matrix, right? Inverted matrix, up is down, down is up, good is bad, bad is good, right? And I think that that's part of the reason why so many things that feel so purely pleasurable tend to be not good for us, because of that inversion, because of that flipping around of energy. But there are things. So it's like, what things can you find that make you feel good, that are good for you? And how can you indulge in those things a little bit more? That's going to be the energy as we enter the beginning of June. So the Gemini new moon is the opening of that, but it's much more than that at the same time. It's also about becoming more open. There's an energy here that really wants to open and expand our minds. We have a whole stellium in Gemini here. And I'm going to put up the chart for you all so that you can see what I'm talking about. So if you look at this chart here, you'll be able to see good old Uranus still over there at 27 degrees of Taurus. And this is all going to be in the bottom right-hand corner of the chart. We also have Sedna and Hygeia conjunct at 1 degree of Gemini. Then we got Mercury at 2 degrees, the sun and the moon at 6 degrees. And then we got Jupiter all the way over there at 26 degrees, 54 minutes. So essentially, we'll call that almost an exact opposition to the galactic center, because the galactic center is 27 degrees. And I forget the minutes off the top of my head. Let's see, I have actually right here, 27 degrees and 16 minutes is the approximation of where the galactic center is. So funny how I had to get so specific for you guys about an approximation, right? But 27:16 Sag. So 26:54 is pretty close, where that rounds up to 27. So we got Jupiter there kind of holding on the end of that stellium, not really necessarily a part of that energy, aside from the fact that it's also in Gemini, right? Because 6 degrees to 26 degrees is a bit of a jump in energy. However, it's still connecting here. It's still bringing in and drawing in those downloads from the galactic center and distributing that through to the rest of this stellium, which is quite tight, that we talked about here and that you can see here in the bottom right of the chart here within Gemini. There's a real opening besides that galactic center opposition. Also with that energy of Mercury here within Gemini, this is a moon that is going to be very social. People are going to be wanting to get out. We're going to be wanting to connect with other people, to share thoughts, to share ideas. There's a lot of lighthearted energy, but there's a lot of really deep energy here as well. And I really love that about these moons, how you can feel and experience this on so many levels. But I do feel overall that we're going to be feeling that beneficial energy here of all of this lighthearted Gemini energy. Any frustration or tension that we feel with this moon is going to have to do more with what it is that we're resisting, because there is something here that's wanting to break through into our consciousness from the subconscious. There's some deeper truth that wants to be realized. Honestly, for a lot of us, what it feels like is there's some sort of solution to some perceived problem that we've been experiencing that wants to present itself to us. The only question is, are we going to be open-minded enough to receive it, to recognize the solution for what it is instead of looking at it as yet another problem that needs to be overcome? There's this energy of how it's almost like disguised or hidden in plain sight. The thing that's been preventing us from seeing it is just our own faulty belief system or our own bias or perception of reality that needs to shift. So this new moon is offering us an opportunity to shift that bias so that we can see the solution that's been there the whole time. And it's actually astounding in its simplicity. That's sort of the energy that's coming through here, which I think is really, really funny, honestly. Now, Jupiter is in a T-square here with the nodes of fate. And you may be able to recognize this in the drawing as what looks like a big red arrow pointing to the right. You can see the apex of the triangle where the two squares meet is pointed right at Jupiter. And then there's the opposition as the nodes are always opposite each other. So whenever we have a T-square that is being held together, so to speak, by the nodes of fate, I look at this as a sort of a crossroads. There's some sort of destined and fated energy here. There's something that's pushing us out of our comfort zone and toward our growth. And with Jupiter being the focal point of this T-square and the resolving or energy being, as it always is, the empty area, which would create the Grand Cross if there were another planet, to the exact opposition of the focal point of the T-square, we can see that the resolving energy here is the galactic center. So this only emphasizes that energy and the importance here of allowing ourselves to be open to thinking outside the box. The galactic center is an area that represents expansion of the mind, that represents those solutions, that represents higher thinking. This is where we connect with the Akashic records. This is where we connect with sometimes these spontaneous spiritual awakenings. There's a lot of really powerful energy that is seeking to break up the belief systems, to shake us out of an old way of thinking or being into something new, into something more expanded. This is our access point to cosmic consciousness. So it's so powerful that that is the resolving or the empty angle of this Grand Cross. That is the resolving energy of this T-square here. Now we'd have the North Node, which is also part of this T-square, who is not alone here. The North Node is still loosely conjunct Saturn and Neptune, who are now 1 degree apart, not even a full degree, in the sign of Aries, with Saturn here at 0 degrees and 8 minutes of Aries as of the new moon. He moved into Aries on the 24th of May, so just a few days before the moon. And Neptune currently at 1 degree and 46 minutes of Aries. So you can see them down near the bottom of the chart there, nestled together. Still within conjunction range and out of sign conjunction now to the North Node. But still that energy with Neptune and Saturn here. Neptune being the stronger of the two, the slower moving planet. The big gun, so to speak. Dissolving away some type of energy that Saturn is representing for us here. Dissolving away some sort of perceived limitation, some structure perhaps of our consciousness, of our being, of our perceptions of reality that is not serving us, that is too rigid. It's dissolving away that resistance to this higher truth, to our own power, to our calling, to our higher evolution, represented, of course, by the North Node. So this is a really powerful energy that is dissolving those ego constructs that we've been holding on to that have been excuses for our limitations, excuses to think small. Do you see this energy, how it just keeps repeating? This opportunity to step into a more expansive version of ourselves. This opportunity to align with a new story, right? Gemini can very much represent the energy of stories. Here, we're getting an opportunity to rewrite those stories. One of my favorite quotes or understandings is this understanding that nothing that happens in this world has a built-in meaning to it. It only has the meaning that we give it. That means every situation that you've ever experienced, you gave a meaning to. And that meaning created a belief. And that belief created a reality. But you can change the meaning of that story. And as you change the meaning of that story, you begin to shift the belief. And as you begin to shift the belief, you begin to shift the reality. That's what this new moon is doing. It's opening up that window of possibility that allows for us to begin to create a new reality. Now, some of these stories, there could be a lot of different stories. This is going to vary very widely from person to person, right? It's whatever story makes you feel small. Whatever story, I guess we could say, gives you an excuse to play small. Whatever story tells you that you're not enough, right? That you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, you're not strong enough, you're not ready, right? You don't know enough. That Gemini energy likes to know lots of things. All right. For some people, it's like the point of where you've done the ruminating, you've done the visualization, you've done the imagining. Now it's time to do something with that. It's time to bring that into form. Right? For others, it's perhaps we haven't allowed ourselves to imagine enough. Perhaps we've been so focused on bringing in something into form that we've gotten too caught up in the linear, in the minutia. And we need to expand that vision again. The minutia, the linear, that's that South Node in Virgo energy, the hyperfixation. Some of us, we need to expand our view again. If your view is too expansive and there's too much distraction, it's about narrowing it. We have to, like I said, for everybody, it's going to be different. Some of these stories with SEDONA here could have to do with abandonment. They could have to do with betrayal, right? SEDONA was this beautiful, or is this beautiful goddess of the sea. But before she became the goddess of the sea, she was married off to this man. She didn't want to get married, but she did so because her father really wanted to see her with a husband, with a mate. And so she chose a suitor, and he was not what he presented himself as. And she was so miserable. Once she betrayed herself, right? That is the original betrayal. It wasn't these men who betrayed her first. She betrayed herself by doing something that she didn't want to in order to please another, right? So she begged her father to come and rescue her from this man, from this marriage, this ill-fated marriage. And her father did, but in his journeys, the seas, this man that she was married to, this being, was very powerful. And so he created this huge storm on the water. And the father, being afraid, threw his daughter overboard to appease the man. So he had rescued her, and he was moving away with her. And this storm was meant to prevent him from taking her. And so he threw her overboard because he wanted to be spared, right? So he gave up her life for his. And it said in the story even that she clung on to the side of the ship, and he cut her fingers off in order to separate her, to get her to let go of the boat. And her fingers became these beautiful sea creatures. So there's this whole story behind it, and this beautiful goddess that she morphed into after she was sacrificed by her father. But there's a lot of bitterness. There's a lot of betrayal there. So some of these wounds could have to do with that. It could have to do with this energy of becoming something or someone that you're not in order to please other people. We have Juno conjunct Black Moon Lilith on the other side of the charts in sort of a loose opposition to Uranus here. Juno there. Got Juno at 21 degrees of Scorpio and Lilith at 18 degrees of Scorpio. So we have an energy too there that kind of mirrors a little bit of this energy of being true to yourself, as well as, of course, Uranus, anywhere that Uranus is in, any sign that Uranus is in. Juno, traditionally, people think of her, and I actually recently delved more deeply into Juno because I knew there had to be more to her than just the wifey energy, right? This is what represents our ideals around partnership. And of course, Juno represents Hera, Jupiter's wife, right? So that's where some of that energy, that partnership energy comes in. She also represents where we deal with themes like betrayal. If we think about Jupiter and Hera and the story of the gods, Jupiter was always cheating on Hera, right? His indiscretions were kind of like this stain, this embarrassment to her, this pain to her. So there's a lot of that energy of betrayal there as well, particularly coupled with Black Moon Lilith. But there's also this desire of like really getting to the core of what matters to us, what's important to us in partnership, what we are willing to accept and not accept, and the responsibility to be true to ourselves if we're ever going to attract that ideal partner. If I can't be true to me, how am I going to attract somebody who complements the truth of me? Right? So there's a lot of these themes and energies pushing us to examine. We've got Eris there, conjunct Chiron still in Aries. And now we've got Venus coming into that equation. So there's an energy all itself too, right? Working with these, healing those energies, those wounds within the heart space. So a lot of heart space healing. And the way that I'm feeling this with this Gemini new moon is that this is very much an energy of releasing the stories around those heartbreaks, around those betrayals, around with Eris, it's very much that energy of not being invited to the party, right? Not being included in things. So that energy of being ostracized, the pain associated with that. There's a lot of these deep pains. And yes, they are expressed by these feminine energies, but that doesn't just mean that these are the pains of the feminine. These are universal. And remember, we all have a divine masculine and feminine essence within us. There is a beautiful mystic triangle, if you look back up at the chart again, going on here between Pluto in the bottom left, the sun and the moon, and also Mercury here. So the whole Gemini stellium there, right? There's a trine connecting them. And then we have a sextile connecting Pluto to Saturn and Neptune. And also Ceres, who is joining. So there's those themes of abandonment and transformation of the feminine as well. Ceres being the mother of Persephone, who was kidnapped by Hades, represented by Pluto, interestingly enough, and taken down to the underworld for half of the year. And it was actually Jupiter that she negotiated with in order to get her daughter back for half the year. And this is the fable of the seasons. The cold months where we have no harvest, we have no yield. Those are the months where Persephone is away in the underworld with Hades. And the spring and the summer, when everything is lush and beautiful and the earth is giving, is when Persephone and Ceres are together. So we have that interesting energy. How fascinating that we have that sextile, that positive supportive aspect between Ceres and Pluto here. They're actually in the exact sextile. And then we have Neptune and Saturn a little bit looser over there. So 3 degrees, 1 degree, 0 degrees for Saturn, with Pluto at 3 degrees in retrograde in Aquarius. And then we also have another sextile being made from Saturn and Jupiter. It's because we've been telling the stories about Jupiter. Saturn and Neptune and Ceres to this Gemini stellium. So that's this beautiful connecting, this beautiful harmonizing of all of these energies here. Pluto is adding that extra energy of transformation. Pluto is giving us that ability to tap into also as he's moving through this retrograde. And I'm going to do a whole different video on this for everybody. But there's some really powerful themes of leadership that we're working through here with Pluto retrograde, conjunct the star, fixed star Altair, in a square to the Shapley attractor, where we can see now Vesta still conjunct. Black Moon Lilith has moved on with Juno, but Vesta is still conjunct that Shapley attractor. And so there's a lot of deep, dark energy stirring with all of that. A lot that's being revealed about current leaders, about the energy of leadership, what it means to lead with integrity, what it means to have a balanced ego in positions of leadership. There's also energies of freedom, Altair being the flying eagle, that energy of freedom, that energy of being that visionary leader as well. So Pluto's got some really powerful energies that we're working through with this retrograde. And that is really assisting us in this energy of releasing these stories, which then allows us to become that visionary leader in our own lives, in our own communities, to step into this next vision of ourselves, to free ourselves from all of these trappings of the mind, these trappings of the ego, these trappings of, yes, the false matrix, right? And all of that programming. That's very much what this new moon in Gemini is all about. It's about stepping out of the old programming and conditioning of the false matrix, healing those wounds of abandonment, those wounds of betrayal, those wounds of not feeling good enough, of not measuring up in whatever sense, and constructing a new story. And not just a story that we speak, a story that we live. All right. I think that's a pretty good analysis of these energies. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you are having a fantastic new moon. I am starting to write horoscopes over on Threads. So if you guys don't follow me on Threads, my link to my Instagram is in the description box below. If you click on there, you can access my Threads and you can see I'm doing a sun sign / ascendant horoscopes. You can read them for your sun sign or your ascendant. The ascendant is going to be much more in line with your true natal chart, as the natal charts begin at the ascendant, right? Depending on how you do your charts, it still may not be exact to your house placements. If you use the whole house system, then it will be. If you don't, I don't use the whole house system. So my chart, for instance, starts at 22 degrees of Cancer because that's the degree of my rising sign. So it still isn't perhaps as exact as it's going to be if you get a natal chart or transit reading, which I, of course, also offer, but they're still fun and I'm really enjoying them and playing around with them. So if you are interested in that, check out my Threads. That's in the description box below. If you want to work with me, all the information to do that is also in the description box below. We go live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless otherwise noted. So if you are new here, I hope that you have liked this video. I hope you've subscribed if you're still watching this video so that you can catch more. I love you, honor you, respect you. Anybody else who is part of this tribe, who's heard this spiel 1,000 times, make sure that you like the video as well if you have not done so yet. And drop me a comment down below. Let me know how this moon is shaking out for you, how you are feeling these energies, how you're looking forward to that 6/6 portal. How do you plan to pamper yourself as we move toward that energy? I would love to hear about that too, and anything else in between. Talk to you soon.